Hello, clever engineers. Today, we're going to talk about an EDC pouch. Now, for the pouch, I chose a Maxpedition Fatty. It's a little bit bigger than some other options, but it's going to really have everything you need in a still compact size to handle things that might come up on an everyday and not so everyday basis. So let's get into it. We have in the front pocket there a Benchmade Griptilian. We'll talk more about that towards the end of the video. Now we open up the pouch, and you can see right away there are some hidden compartments as well, but we have a number of items that are in the elastic straps. And the first one that we're going to talk about is the flashlight. Now, there are some schools of thought that advocate for a headlamp, rechargeable flashlight, maybe a little micro flashlight that uses a AAA or a couple of AAA batteries. I went a different route here. So we're using a Thrunite branded flashlight. It's very solid, good quality, not ridiculously priced either. And this one uses AA batteries. So the reason that I thought that was a better option is number one, it's going to always be available. You don't have to worry about charging it. Number two, the batteries are going to last way longer. And number three, they're going to have a lot more capacity and life than rechargeable and AAA options. So it's going to really be something that you can depend on whenever you need it. So you still have the ability to clip it to a hat with this little clip, maybe a piece of clothing. So it is going to be semi hands-free. But I think when I tried to weigh what the priorities were, reliability was number one. So that's the reason that I chose this. Now, I'll talk a little bit more about the batteries. So you can see it uses two AA's, and the model is the Thrunite 2A V3. And these are Energizer Ultimate Lithium batteries. So they weigh 33% less than an equivalent alkaline. They also have 25% more capacity than a AA alkaline. They have about triple the capacity of AAA alkalines. So it's something that you can really count on. They don't leak. They have a 20-year shelf life. I know a lot of alkalines have a alleged 10-year shelf life, but that's in the packaging. If you actually put them into a device, they will leak, and I've had that happen personally. I'm sure most of you have as well. So something that I think is a much better solution in terms of the amount of light that it puts out, the amount of time that it will last putting out that light actually goes up to 500 lumens in turbo mode. And in low light mode, it's going to last with these lithium batteries with 17 lumens, it's going to last about 65 hours. Even in the high mode, the non-turbo, it's 280 lumens, and it'll last about 2.5 hours with these lithium batteries. So it has strobe mode, it has medium firefly mode, so very flexible, very long lasting, and very high light output when you need it. So overall, I think that is the best mix of factors for your EDC pouch. So let's put that aside. We'll move on to our Fischer Space Pen. So this one, it has a flat top. I think it's a little bit nicer looking than the regular one with the pointy top. Still about $26, $27 on Amazon in 2023. And you can see that when you unfold it and put it together, it becomes a full-length pen. It will write in bad weather, wet weather, bad surfaces, and it's very smooth as far as the pen itself. The Fischer Space Pens, their writing is not as smooth, but it's a trade-off between smoothness and reliability under adverse conditions. So for something like this, we're definitely going to take the reliability over the smoothness. And they're very good quality, very reliable, made in the US. You can spend triple the amount on a titanium pen. Are they nicer? Sure. But is it something where you're going to get the ROI in an EDC kit? Are they going to work any better? The answer is absolutely not. You may save I don't know, a couple of grams of weight because of the titanium, but other than the cool factor, it doesn't make any sense. This is not a heavy item, and it's very compact and works quite well. Next, we're going to get into our little Knipex Cobra pliers. Now, this is the 5-inch or 125 millimeter version. There is a 4-inch version, but both of these will fit into most pouches quite easily. I think the 5-inch version is the way to go because, number one, it has the same mechanism as the larger ones. It also has the comfort grips. Now, you see I have a pry bar, a full-size 5 3/4-inch Titan pry bar. And what I did, this is a scraper bar, so it comes with a cap on the sharp edge. I also put a little piece of tape over the blunt edge just to prevent it from scratching up the lining of the bag. But this is really something, you see the sharp edge there that's covered by the cap. This is really something that if you need to wedge a door open, you need to pry something, this is the smallest bar that will actually work. Now, there are a lot of gimmicky tools that they combine a pry bar with all sorts of things. There are 3.5, 4-inch pry bars. This is an example of a gimmicky tool. This is not in my EDC pouch, and this is supposed to combine a pry bar, a wrench, a 1/4-inch driver, even a flat blade screwdriver if you kind of use the end like that. But this really is not going to do any of those things well because the amount of fasteners that are going to be reachable by whether it's the wrench function, the nut driver function, the screwdriver function. I mean, it's in the real world, it is so rare to actually be able to use this. And I've tried. I got this as a gift, just as a little novelty gift many, many years ago. Um, I don't know if I've ever actually successfully used it, not even once. So you want to stay away from these multifunction gimmicky tools because while they're nice in theory, if you compare what you can actually use this Knipex with compared to a plier wrench or another gimmicky type tool, it's not even close. You're really not going to um, get much more out of these gimmicky tools uh, relative to carrying nothing at all. So that's really my thought, and I want to. I'm kind of a firm believer on that because um, I've used tools my whole life since I was a little kid. Um, so definitely use something that really works, not something that works in theory. Now you see I took out some fisherman's shears. They're very small, but you see they have big handles. These are titanium coated, quite sharp. I do also have little scissors in the Leatherman, but they're definitely not a substitute for these. They're also super comfortable to use. Only about, they were less than $4 on Amazon, so very, very useful. Now this right here, this is a bit extension for the Leatherman. You see I also put in a little number 2 Phillips bit, and they're quite hard to remove. It has a very positive lock on the bits. So I think that's something that is very, since number 2 Phillips are so common, something that's worth keeping. I also have these Leatherman bits. This is the small pouch or holder of the Leatherman bits. I do have a bigger one on order that's going to be fully populated to give me some more options. It's been on back order for 2 months, so that's why you're just seeing what you're seeing now. So you can see these are much thinner than regular 1/4-inch bits, but they still have the same size head. So you can use them the same way with the fastener, but they take up a lot less space. Now, I want to do a little segue into a Swiss Army knife. So the reason I chose the Leatherman over the Swiss Army knife is because it has that option to use a bit extender where you actually will have access and leverage to fasteners, to screws, to all sorts of fasteners that otherwise might not be reachable with a lot of other types of tools. Now, Swiss Army knife I carry in other situations. They're great. They're very well made. But for something like this, where we have full size needle nose pliers, and of course you can hold a nut with that while you use the Knipex to screw or unscrew a bolt. They're This is extremely high quality. There is now a Wave Plus, but I actually like the original one better for a pouch like this because the Wave Plus weighs about 25% more. It's a little bit bigger. It also has a couple of other things like a replaceable wire cutter, but and a crimper. But I think for those additional functions and the additional size, that 25% weight penalty, it's really not worth it because this entire pouch, minus the knife in the front, which you can also have in your pocket, it weighs 2.5 pounds. So once if we were to put in the Wave Plus as well as the knife in the front, we're over 3 pounds. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but if it's something that is going to be your EDC, everyday carry, and you have it with you all the time, that extra half pound, when everything is said and done, it will definitely make a difference. It'll make the difference between you saying, oh, I'm just going to leave it behind, or I'm going to carry it with me just in case. Now, you can also see how this extends, and you can open part of it. You can open it in many different ways. Now, this is the part that it does come with a double-ended bit that lives in there, but that's the part that the bit extender goes into. And then you can see how much room you have, which you're never going to get with a gimmicky tool. You're not going to even get anything close to this with a Swiss Army knife. Even the Swiss Army Knife Cyber Tool series, which I have, they do have a little bit more of a legitimate screwdriver, but it's nothing like this. So that's something that that's really the main reason that I chose this particular multi-tool. There are cheaper ones, Gerber, SOG. Of course, there are no names, but if you can afford to, now I'm showing the little scissor here to show how it contrasts with that fisherman's shears. But if you can afford something like this to put into your EDC pouch, you're not going to regret it. And it also has, you can see it has various saw blades, it has files, it has all sorts of other things, can opener, just it is a true multi-tool where you're going to have the ability to do all sorts of things that you can do with other multi-tools. But again, you're getting the additional benefit of that bit holder, the full-size needle nose pliers, and you can see, by the way, how well made this is. There's absolutely the alignment is absolutely perfect. The grind is absolutely perfect. It's an American-made tool, so that's pretty much what you would expect. It is priced accordingly, like I said, but with something like this, you 100% get what you pay for. So we're going to close this up, and then we're going to move on to the pouch that is on the left. So what we have in here, we have some emergency cash, and I have these bags. I'm going to go over how I make these. So you have these little zip top bags, and then I take the item that I put in them, and I mark how large it's going to be, leave a little bit of room, and then I put it in a Foodsaver, and I make a seal. And then I cut the top with a scissor, and then you can see how it fits in there so nicely. Um, so that's the starting bag. And by the way, they're 4 mil thick, so they are thicker than regular bags, which is going to make them more rugged and quite reusable. That's the spot where I marked where to make the seal on the Foodsaver. And then, I cut after the seal, and then you see I cut like towards the top, and you can still use these over and over. Now, I have another one I made the same way, and that's going to be my first aid items, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I have a Write in the Rain notebook, and this is a perfect companion to that Fischer Space Pen. So it's it has a weather-resistant cover and pages, and paper is not going to fall apart on you, even if it's bad weather, it's raining, it gets wet, it gets soaked. You can write on it when it's wet and soaked, so something that's very handy to have. I definitely wanted to tend towards the brighter color, so I picked an orange so you wouldn't misplace it. Now let's talk about our little first aid components. So what we have here, and again, a Foodsaver is absolutely key to making an item like this. So we have our Band-Aids. They're Band-Aid brand Band-Aids because you want to depend on them. Several assorted sizes, a large, a medium, and a small. We have, made in the Foodsaver here, some caffeine tablets. I put the expiration date on. So we have 4 tablets. Each one is equivalent to a cup of coffee. So basically, we've got 4 cups of coffee in that little pouch. We also have, this is ibuprofen tablets. So you can see we have 4 tablets, 2 doses. Now you can get these pre-sealed. They only come in packets of 2. And you can actually see this big packet of 2 tablets. It's over twice as big as my little Foodsaver made packet with 4 tablets. So we have 2 doses that will fit into less than half the space of 1 dose of a factory made packet. Now I get they had to print all of the different warnings and disclaimers and whatnot, but those warnings are not really worth the space that you're going to waste by carrying them around. The warnings won't help you. The pills will, or tablets in this case. These are were Robitussin cough gels that I just showed you. Now these right here, these are Benadryl, antihistamine. They also actually make you drowsy. So the opposite of the caffeine tablets, but they do serve 2 purposes. Here we have Imodium tablets in case you have some bad food, some bad water. Definitely important to carry around. And we have some Woundseal clotting powder. Um, it's pretty self-explanatory what this does. So very important to keep a little packet of that. Here we have, again, a Foodsaver made packet of Neosporin plus Pain. So that takes up so little room, but could be super useful. And finally, in our little first aid sub pouch, we have these alcohol prep pads. They're very tiny. We do have some bigger alcohol pads in another part of the pouch that we'll talk about later, but we don't want to waste those large ones if you just need to clean a small wound before putting, or cut or scrape before putting a bandage on. So that's what those are for. So you can see we fit all of those little things in that little micro pouch. Now, this is right here, this is a Nitecore 10,000 milliamp hour power bank. What this is it gives you the ability to charge your cell phone several times, twice in fact, with most newer phones. And you can see compared to this Anker, which is also 10,000, you get the USB-A, the USB-C, but you can it's probably about 35% smaller and also 35% lighter than that same 10,000 milliamp hour capacity Anker. It has a carbon fiber case, and it legitimately does have, I tried it, it does have the capacity that it's rated for. They're a little bit pricier. They're going to be between $50 and $60. But I think for something like this, well worth it. Now, I also have a double-ended braided USB-C to USB-C cable. I have a Samsung phone, so this is really all I need to both charge the power bank and to charge the phone itself. Now, I also have a Fox 40 pealess whistle. I have that clipped to the bag itself. There are a couple of little attachments on the bag that I didn't use, but I don't want to cut anything off or change anything in case I'm going to use them in the future. Now, you see I have a energy bar. This is not a snack bar. It's 400 calorie, really an emergency food bar. It's mostly sugar, but one thing that's great about these is they have a 5+ year shelf life. This one you could see expires in September of 2028. So that's 5.5 years from the time that I am making this video. So something very useful. I do notice a lot of these EDC pouches, they're completely lacking any sort of food and water solution. We have a water solution in here too that we'll talk about a little later, but you do want at least some sort of sustenance in your pouch. Now we've got some zip ties here. They're useful for countless different things. You can also put these together, put one inside the other basically to make a long zip tie. But and then you can of course cut them with your fisherman's shears. Um, Now what I have in here is a sail needle, and I took some aquarium tubing and I just heated it with a lighter and then closed the ends of it. So this way it's not going to poke you, it's not going to poke any part of your EDC pouch or components. And then see, I left a little bit of room there because if you do take it out and put it back in, you can actually reseal it a couple of times before it gets to the point where you can't, you don't have enough length in the tubing to safely reseal it. So that's going to be used with some of our special thread that we'll talk about a little bit later. Now, what we have here, we have our Bic mini lighter. It's got a zip tie on top there, so the gas doesn't accidentally come out if the button is depressed. It's also wrapped in, this is the thinnest mil-spec cord that's available. It is Kevlar reinforced. So basically, it's not paracord, it's not anything that's going to be super heavy duty, but in terms of having some sort of cordage that doesn't take up a lot of space, doesn't take up a lot of weight, this is actually quite effective and quite strong. And then I just took a little piece of tape there and put it around the front so the cordage doesn't unravel on you. So that's one of the handiest ways that you can both start a fire and keep some cordage available for whatever you might need it for. Now I also see there's some EDC kits that they have, or bug out bags. They might have 8, 9, 10 methods to start fire. Now, I think if you just get something that's solid and reliable right off the bat, redundancy is great, but how many different levels of redundancy do you need? Now, here we have a compass, and it does have little measuring scales on the plastic. So you can use this with a map, and it has a hole there, so you can easily clip it to a piece of clothing, so you can refer to it without having to always take it in and out of your pocket if you need. It's liquid filled, and will definitely get you out of a jam if necessary. These right here are they're compact stormproof matches. You can see I sealed them in a Foodsaver pouch. And those are going to work with, we have some tinder and a striker that's in another pouch. You don't want to put your tinder and striker in the same pouch as the matches, just to make sure that nothing spontaneously combusts on you. This is a little packet of WD-40. Again, this is a Foodsaver made item. I took a cotton ball and I oversaturated it with WD-40 and then sealed it in that little packet there. So if you have something that's a stuck bolt, something is getting really annoying with it squeaking, anything like that, you have a solution right there. And by the way, as far as how I make all of these, I do have another video called How to Protect and Seal Almost Anything, and that's going to talk about that Foodsaver solution. Now, right here we have PPE. Now, you can see we have yet another one of these little 4 mil bags that I shortened up with the Foodsaver. And we have some nitrile gloves, and those are going to be much stronger, thicker, and more chemical resistant than typical vinyl or latex gloves. So I strongly recommend using a pair of those. They're just going to be way more reliable and even reusable. We also have a mask and some earplugs. Um, Now, the last thing that's going to be visible here, we have this Systane. These are eye drops, and these are supposed to be single serving, single use, but in reality, if you break the seal, you can recap it. It won't leak out. Probably have about 30 to 40 drops in there. So if you go through an area with some smoke, you get something irritating in your eye, that's really going to be some welcome relief. Now, a little bit out of frame, we have our tiny little roll of duct tape. Again, something that's super useful to have around. And you can see how I just kind of folded the end over itself to be able to open it very easily and quickly. So that's also inside one of those loops. Now, we're going to open up that last compartment. And there is quite a bit in there. We're going to start off with our water container, which again, the food and water, anything with sustenance, it seems to be missing from a lot of EDC pouches. Now, this is a 1 liter Survivor filter bag. Now, we don't actually have the Survivor filter. We have another way that we can purify the water, because again, we're very cognizant of size and weight. And you can see the bag is prevented from unraveling there with a little Velcro tie. Now, of course, everyone's situation is different. And the nice thing, if you do have a filter that you want to use this with, you can. But when I show you the solution that I've chosen to use, um, hopefully you'll think that it makes more sense to do it this way. So now here is our little hygiene sub pouch. So we've got some dude wipes. If you don't have toilet paper, pretty self-explanatory. Now we have these alcohol wipes. These are the larger ones that I was talking about that we don't want to waste if we clean a little cut or scrape before putting a bandage on. But these are going to disinfect surfaces, disinfect your hands. So very important to have a couple of those around. Then we have that compressed towel that I showed you. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Now, these right here are the Chlorflock water purification powder packets. Now, each one of these treats a liter, which is the exact size of that water bottle that you just saw. The thing that they do that a lot of other water purification tablets do not is this also flocculates the water. So it basically makes the impurities settle. So once you've treated your water, you can filter it through a little bit of, just to put at the end of the water bottle, a little bit of t-shirt material, or once you expand the compressed towel, you can cut a little piece off of there. And it's going to prevent any sort of contaminants, solids contaminants, from getting into you, just like the bacteria, viruses, and cysts are treated. This way, the contaminants are going to be kept away from your body as well. Now, this compressed towel, you see I also put it in the Foodsaver. This is a 23-inch by 10-inch towel. It's quite large. There are individually wrapped ones that are tiny. Now, you can cut this into small pieces once you've expanded it, but you cannot combine those little tiny towels into a bigger one. So I think it's far more practical and flexible to carry something like this than several of the small compressed towels. And of course, in the Foodsaver packet there, it's never going to get wet and expand when it shouldn't. Now this right here is a tiny, tiny charger. And this is a very powerful one. It is actually rated for PD, power delivery. And all it has on here is a a USB-C port. And that's really all you need to charge phone, to charge the power bank. You saw I had that little USB-C cable. I keep saying micro USB, which this is not in any way. But you can see that all you need to do is plug this in, and it will recharge that power bank very quickly. And it's super, super compact. It's probably the smallest charger that has that PD rating, that quick charge that I have encountered. Next, we have Carabiner. Now, this one, it actually came with this railer bit rail, so I have a whole bunch of those that I use for organizing my bits. Um, it's aluminum, and it's very light and very strong, quite well made. It's made in Taiwan. I have not seen them separately. You can get all sorts of other carabiners, but what this would be useful for, if you clip the pouch to your belt, if you clip the water bottle to your belt, so a lot of different things. Now, I see a lot of these pouches, they have a little tube of crazy glue. Now, I think there's a much better solution, and that's going to be epoxy, quick setting epoxy. Now, this is tiny, tiny tubes. It's a super glue brand. So it's got the resin and the hardener. Like with any epoxy, you have to mix them in equal parts. But the great thing about this is it's going to be much, much stronger, probably 5 times as strong as a lot of super glues, and far more impact resistant. So it's something that, yes, it takes a little bit more work to set up, but at the end of the day, when you are adhering something, it's you need to depend on it. It's going to be something that you really don't have to worry about. Now, to accompany that needle that I showed you before, we have this thread. Now, this is not just ordinary thread. This is actually 8-ply fishing line that's 60-pound test. And you can actually see I just wound that little bobbin up from this bigger spool. It is less than half a millimeter in diameter. It's actually 0.4 millimeter. So it will fit into that needle without any issue. And it's going to be something that is much stronger than heavy duty thread. So something to really, really make sense to have in your EDC pouch. Now, right here, we have an Uncle Bill's Sliver gripper. Now, this is a tweezer. One thing that it's particularly useful for and designed for are splinters. So if you get a splinter and it's slowing you down, it's hindering you, this right here, it's not going to poke into anything when it's put together like this. And it's super, super useful, very important to have around just in case. And of course, as a tweezer, it's not just going to be for splinters, but that's one of the most obvious uses for it. So now we're in the home stretch. We don't have much left here, but we're going to talk about our knives. Now, this is, I had mentioned Benchmade Griptilian. So we don't have to go all out as far as our knife. We can use something like a Kershaw. Now, these Kershaws, they are available in a better grade of steel that's going to be much more similar to the Griptilian. But you want something that maybe not necessarily, you know, crazy expensive, but you want something reliable. You can get a $5 or $10 folding knife, but you don't want it to fall apart on you when you open it and you need it. So something like this Kershaw, it is US made. This particular model goes for around 70 or so dollars. The Benchmade is going to be a little closer to 200, but something that if you can afford it, get something that's a little bit of a step up, just going to work better, be more dependable, and when you need to use it, you don't have to think, oh, can I actually count on it functioning, or am I chancing it? So the whole purpose of the EDC is that the stuff you carry is going to be the stuff that you can actually use, the stuff that you can actually depend on. So that's pretty much going to cover most of the, actually all of the items that are in this pouch. Of course, you can decorate it with some swag. There's a little Velcro up there. There's also some molly in the back if you choose to attach things. I don't use that, but that's something that does give you a few other options. Um, but that about covers it. So, Clever Engineer out.